Randy's probably right. Now that I've sort of focused on it, there will be a variety of constituencies, I'm sure, who will think there should be legislation mandating that different agencies do different things with regard to the plan, whether it's DEQ or SEC or other. So there may well be legislative proposals.
Do you know what? I didn't follow what DEQ said. I think they used it as a very aggressive.
Pretty strongly worded that Virginia is not treated equitably amongst other states. And so, but it was in line with a lot of the other comments that were submitted by Dominion and NEI.
Okay.
EEI has made their submittals as well. So.
Maybe our approach could be a part of the more national approach where the American Nuke Society has put together a special committee. That special committee that I'm chairing is on nuclear energy in the states, where we're approaching this entire activity with the 31 states that get energy from nuclear here in the United States. We are approaching that, so we're going to be working with the governors and their staffs on the implementation of this rule, given the fact that the rule says, here, go forth and all of you implement this, and try to meet this, when there's no criteria. There's a number of things we could say that doesn't work. So we are creating a sort of a national approach, working with the National Governors Association, we've already made 3 presentations to them to talk about how nuclear needs to be treated equitably in their states and how the current plan doesn't treat it equitably and how we're commenting on it and how we need to work with them. So maybe that's what we can say, is that we in the Virginia Nuclear Energy Consortium Authority want to work with the governor and his staff in devising Virginia's plan for meeting the requirements of the Clean Energy Plan. Does that sound like a reasonable approach? I don't.
Yes. But as a matter of fact, we might want to look for logical consistencies with the other authority recently created on climate change.
Great.
And,
I agree with both of your views. I think that's where we can then bolster our role by partnering with other entities that are going to share the same thing.
Agreed.
Catch a ride with them, but at the same time.
And I think what it says is that we're going to do the work to help you make the right decisions. We're not going to ask you for a resolution, which at the end of the day has little or no bearing on anything. I'd like them to have a resolution for certain things. I just don't think at this point the comment period's closed. I don't think the resolution is going to serve us. So we need to be serving them.
and at this time, it is a draft rule.
Yeah.
So
Right.
comments are submitted, and there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions. So,
Sure.
today it was announced that they'll probably miss the June deadline by 3 months.
So really?
Yeah.
Longer than that.
Which is not a gigantic surprise.
Yeah. But
So, I tend to agree. I don't think a resolution is necessary.
So I think if we're all working together collaboratively
Just get
with
the word.
what's best for Virginia, while then knowing what the other states are doing too, especially those around us, Maryland, et cetera, North Carolina, we can work to make sure we're doing the best thing for the state.
So with sort of a general consensus, Randy, you have a sense of where we're going here with that last number 6?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think with Maureen's help, I think that we can get there. And I think that like we would probably make. And I'm not sure whether I think in the list of things, I think it would probably deserve to go higher up, like the first thing on the list, or further up on the list.
I think that and job creation sort of training workforce.
Because we're now is officially the last thing in the report.
And I think Martin's right. That the order that those recommendations are eventually to the report about that.
Yeah.
I don't think number 6 will get read.
Well, the recommendations probably ought to be in line with our goals and priorities, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we look at what we're saying is what we're going to do, what we did for 2014, and now what we're going to say we're going to do for 2015, then these ought to correlate.
Well, and we don't, but I don't know that we need to have recommendations on every single thing that we care about.
Agreed.
Because we only want to ask them to focus, since the focus available is limited, on very specific things. It may be that we don't even want as many as 6. Maybe we just want to pick 1 or 2 or 3 that are really important right now, that they need to understand are really important to this industry right now. And certainly the rule is one, and it may be the first one. And generally what I've been hearing, I haven't been talking to my friends in industry as often as I did at one point in time, but that workforce is
workforces.
point number 2, you know.
I did have that comment on, you maybe combine 3 and 4, so you could, take some license to that. My comment on number 4 was it seems to focus exclusively on 4-year programs, where there's some 2-year initiatives out there that are helpful
Really
as
important.
well.
Particularly for our
Well, yeah,
arts
because
and
5 and
sciences.
6 could almost be made into 1, too. And you look at 2 and 3 and 4, and they're so important to what we're saying about the workforce and economy stimulation and infrastructure, tax base, and obviously supporting the environment. That's where I think we need to make sure we're focusing our activities on how we are actually being supportive of all that activity for the constituency that lives in the state of Virginia. We'll come back and see if we can't look at those a little bit during the course of this and get something else. Now, right now, our schedule for getting comments is the Monday the 15th. Is that right?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Then we will have it, we'll have it done and back to you all before the end of that week. Is that okay?
What?
4 to 22nd.
Yeah, so by that Friday, by that Friday, have everything,
19th.
put together and back for you all. And so give you the weekend to look at it, and then we can throw it on the governor's desk on the way out for Christmas.
That'll go up.
Yeah.
We'll be there waiting for them when they get back.
Yeah, no,
On the top of the pile.
then I can tell you that everyone in the policy office at least knows that we're out there doing things, because the team can run around doing put stuff together in the last 2 days. So that there's definitely awareness there, and that just to take it off put my governor hat on, the governor is 100% on board with everything that we're talking about here with these issues. He's been very supportive of these things. That is really it's the legislators and educating them, which is the harder part, frankly.
But is one of the critical reasons for the reform.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Right, but as I mentioned, they're looking for opportunities for establishing logical consistency with other initiatives such as climate. There may be others, veteran employment or CEWD, that could be woven through here to make sure that it's self-reinforcing within the fabric of policy.
I'm not sure that this is the time and place to offer this observation. I will, if you decide you want to deal with it, where you want to deal with it. As I look over the list of recommendations, I don't see any role in terms of research and development beyond creating more nuclear engineers. So one way of further commenting on that is, if we're going to be supportive of an R&D, a technology pathway, can't we come up with some kind of guardrails that identify what that might look like? Whether it's dealing with one of the most vexing issues of nuclear energy in the first place, which is what do you do with the byproduct? What do you do with the spent fuel? Has every research rock been turned over in terms of a solution for that? Or is everything in the university research space faster, cheaper, smarter to generate more output? Another piece of this is the technology application that I know some universities and I know some corporate players in the whole field of applying nuclear technology to the medical field, the whole nuclear medicine piece. So personally, I'm thinking beyond just kind of buttoning down the status quo. What kind of forward-leaning, forward-looking effort should this group, the consortium, the public at large look for? there are valid concerns on the part of a number of people, some of whom have probably said here today, about before we build more, what are we doing to try to solve the issues that we have right now? Our big-time nuclear engineering schools, not to say I don't think ours are big time, but in national rankings, the numbers are what they are. What kind of finding solutions for vexing across the board problems of people spending time in research efforts in? And what kind of applications that are in the health-related field, the medical field, that are less pyrotechnic in a sense. And people could say, if it comes up with a better solution for some type of neuroscience application, delivery of a cure in a more targeted, better fashion, that's a good outcome from a public perspective. So, I'm not trying to throw a monkey wrench at anything, but I think, as I think about making a real difference, I need to look forward and not just sideways and look back. And I think what, for the benefit of the public good, to the extent that the constituents supporting this kind of forward-looking activity will grow, or can be. And the players that right now are at the table and maybe not interested in being at the table, given a realistic value proposition, a realistic outcome for some return on that investment of time and financial capital, might be interested in participating. I'll leave it at that.
Jerry, are you suggesting some sort of a recommendation that will target increasing federal R&D funding for specific areas? Or, I mean, most of the R&D in nuclear comes from Department of Energy, for example, and nuclear air transmission. And they set priorities on what areas are funded each year, and some of them go up and some of them go down. And so, are you talking about sending a message there to try to make sure that those priorities are in line with certain...
No, I'm not
I don't think
necessarily
it's
sending
a
a message to Congress.
Well, but
I guess one way of putting it, Gary, is, and this is simplistic, but hopefully will be impactful. If somebody walked in tomorrow and gave a $100 million check to you and son and said, go forth and do great things in the field of nuclear engineering, technology development, what would you do with it?
you're on target with the fuel cycle.
Pardon me?
You're on target with what you said before. So that's
I hope I'm
the fuel cycle and spent fuel. So you're talking about identifying and potentially establishing new funding sources.
And you might build research facilities that are very rare and aging in the world too. So I mean, you could do things to deal with nuclear fuel safety, nuclear fuel design, setting aside for a second, because some of those facilities only exist in one country or two countries, and not all of those countries are friendly to the United States. Some are very So, I mean, there's, I think you make a pretty good point if you wanted to develop. And I really like the idea of including nuclear medicine.
Yes.
So maybe there's a way to capture those, develop
Maybe we could challenge the consortium. with one
develop
of
a
their
vision where
concepts.
Virginia institutions procure a leadership role in guiding